Hey, what's up guys? So this video is going to be on efficient mouse movement while building, or it doesn't have to be only while building, it could be like during editing and some other stuff as well, but it's easiest to use building as an example. And what do I mean by that? I mean, for example, if you're doing a type of build pattern and you look up and then you look down and then you look up, and that's your final movement, that has backtracking in it. You look up, down, then back up. If it's possible, it would be more efficient to look down first and then look back up if you can achieve the same desired building pattern by doing that movement in that order. So that's what I want you guys to start thinking about when you're practicing building patterns or seeing a new building pattern. Ask yourself if there's a more efficient way to do your mouse movement that will have less backtracking. Oftentimes, when you find a more efficient method with the mouse movement, it will feel like it flows more and it will be easier to develop the muscle memory because of this flowing feeling. So I will use an example of a particular building pattern. It's a ramp, a two-sided two-story wall, and then a floor and another ramp. And this is really good when somebody is at a 90-degree angle, a 45-degree angle from your initial ramp. So 45-degree angle is here. So that means they're at this angle, so they could shoot either side. So you need both walls, right? So that's where this pattern is useful. Okay, so the way I just built it was like this. All right, I did this wall here, look up, turn down. I already have to look down to build the floor, and then look back up. So looking down to build that wall at that time does not cause any backtracking because I was already having to look down to build the floor, right? So that's combining, you know, you combined those two building actions together because they both require the looking down, rather than separating them at different times and then having to look down twice, for example. Okay, so when I first saw this building pattern, I'll show you the way that I saw it being done, and this will help paint the picture of the way of thinking, I guess, and what I would recommend. So I first saw it done. The guy went like this. He built here, the lower wall first, and then up, and then right, and then back to the left during the jump. So that has backtracking. You look to the left, you look up, you look to the right, and then you look back to the left. So there's the backtracking. It feels less fluid, it doesn't flow as well, and so it's less efficient, right? Now, there are reasons. There are reasons that you would prioritize over efficient mouse movement. Like, for example, this pattern, what this pattern does is it builds this lower wall here earlier than my more efficient mouse movement pattern. So if you were getting shot really early on after building this ramp from the side here, you would want to use this pattern and build this wall first. But when you have the option, when you're not immediately being shot at, or if you're just executing it really fast to where the difference is negligible about when the wall is being built, then you would want to do the more efficient building pattern. And like I said, the more efficient more efficient mouse movement pattern will feel, it'll be easier to learn because it just feels like it flows more. So when I first saw this person that I was watching do this pattern, I was like, oh, okay, that's a good pattern. I need to know. I want to go practice it now and get it down to muscle memory. Instead of looking at exactly the mouse movement he used, I went into a game and I just remembered the structure pattern. Two-story walls on two sides of an initial ramp, and then jump, floor, ramp, and the second ramp at a 90-degree angle from the first ramp. So I went into the game and then I just remembered that pattern and I recreated it with whatever mouse movement felt natural for me. And that's how I came to prefer, in general, the more efficient mouse movement pattern. Then after I practiced it and learned it a little bit and got it down to muscle memory, I went back to the video and I saw that he was doing the different mouse movement. And I was like, why is he doing that? There's backtracking there. And then that question leads to more understanding. Why would he do the backtracking? Oh, because this wall gets built first in that method, which protects this side of the ramp earlier. And in that exact moment, I don't think he actually needed it that early. He wasn't being shot from that angle right away. So technically he could have done the more efficient pattern, but probably he originally learned the pattern by being shot at from the side and so got in the habit of doing it that way and now does it that way all the time, even though there's a more flowing way of doing it. So now I started practicing this method as well so that I have both of them down to muscle memory, and now I can choose between them based on the situation. If I'm not immediately getting shot from the side, if I'm only getting shot from the front, then I don't need to build that lower sidewall as soon, and I can do the more flowing feeling method, which feels nicer. Okay, so for practicing this, something else as well to consider with the efficient mouse movement. Sometimes the efficient mouse movement may actually make it harder for one building piece to easily attach to another building piece. So for example, with the efficient mouse movement method, this wall down here, if I just look down, I only have to look down a little bit to get it built, right? But if I jump and look down, since I'm jumping and getting this extra height, it's not being built unless I look really far down. So that having to look that much further down may make it not as easy to execute as fast as the less efficient mouse movement method. And even though the less efficient one has more backtracking, maybe the further down that you have to look is even more like difficult and disruptive to the flow. Or you jump right after you look down and build that lower wall. And doing it in that order actually makes it less likely that you'll get stuck under your ramp, because you jump only when you're closer to building the ramp. If you jump and try to build that lower wall in your jump before switching to the floor and ramp, you're more likely to build the ramp a little bit later and then get stuck under it, which people are calling Harry Pottering, or Harry Pottered, getting stuck under the stairs. So that's where I also, you see, you go down this line of thinking and you just start discovering more and more things and reasons, and you just have a better understanding of it. So that's what I want you guys to take away from this video, is it's not something like really revolutionary, but when you start thinking this way and asking questions, then you start understanding things more intimately, and then you can, in new situations, discover and understand things more quickly yourself. So there are also, you know, other, and then you just ask yourself, well, what are there any other ways of doing it? So the less efficient mouse movement was this wall first, and then side, then up, and then to the right, and then back to the left for the floor and ramp. But I could, instead of building this one first, I could also build this one first, and then like that. And again, this one, I would want to do it if I was getting shot from the side right away. That one might be, that's the one that gets that sidewall built the quickest. But like I was explaining, let me go back to this one here. When you do this sidewall first, I can jump sooner and do all of that right away without as much worry of the lower wall not being built, because it's already built, so I don't have to look down as far. So you test these both out yourself, see which one feels better, but I recommend practicing them both. So something else on efficient mouse movement, and like I said, going forward, when you are learning new techniques, try to keep this in mind. It may help you understand things better and develop a more fluid building style in general. some other simple efficient mouse movement things are if you do a 180 and then you're going to 180 back, you probably already do this naturally, but you 180 in the opposite direction back so that your mouse returns to its original position, which is typically in the center. If you 180 like this and then you 180 again in the same direction, now I have to pick up my mouse and bring it back to center, depending on your sensitivity. And with editing as well. Another thing, if you're going to practice this technique, like repeatedly, you want to practice it. It's just to get it down. You would be practicing it in a way that you wouldn't really use it in game. So what I'm saying is, to show you what I'm saying is, if I do it like this and I want to just keep practicing this over and over again, I would keep on turning to the right because this lower wall was not built here. But in the real world situation, the person would be over here. So I would not want to build it this direction because I'd be exposing my back to them. So once you have it here, to continue the pattern, you no longer need the lower wall. You just go like this, you know, if I wanted to get an extra level of height, but you wouldn't really go up 4 stories like this. So instead, you just keep on turning in the same direction just so you can practice the pattern over and over again. So like so. I think, see, I started jumping too soon and I missed the lower wall, so that means I need to look down and jump a little bit later. But that's fine, you know, this is what the practice is for. Or the other method, you know. But now this method is already, it's kind of harder to practice this method. Not really, but this wall is already built in the front, so then you just keep turning like that. Oops. So there's that. And then the last thing I was going to say was efficient mouse movement with editing. Let me just build a couple of these so I can get up here. All right, so editing is a little bit different with efficient mouse movement. All right, it can be. So typically what I do when I'm editing down this, I'll go from like left to right, and then I'll reset my mouse position to go back left to right, right? But that's kind of inefficient mouse movement because I could just keep my mouse here and then start the edit here and go back in the reverse direction, right? And then go back in the reverse direction, and I'm never having to reset my mouse position. The editing itself is keeping it center. I don't have to reset it. But for absolute speed, it may actually be better to reset your mouse position because it keeps your flicks going all in one direction, and that can be easier for muscle memory and for consistency to keep on flicking left to right, left to right, left to right, or right to left, whatever your preferred method is. But you can practice them and see what feels better to you. So, you know, like this, I'm always flicking like the same distance to the right. And if I were to try to do the same thing, but with efficient mouse movement, I'm slower at it right now. So this is a situation where efficient mouse movement may not be as useful. So just more things to consider. So with efficient mouse movement, I get a little bit more confused sometimes, especially if the ramp is like not in the direction I was expecting it to be as I'm editing down. But there are other situations when you're editing where it may be useful to consider doing less backtracking with your mouse. There you go. Hopefully that gives you guys some insight. If you like the video and you want to see some more informational stuff, I've written some text guides that I'll link in the description. Most notably, there's one on key binding, like the concepts behind key binding. So if you've been considering rebinding your stuff, I'd encourage you to read that. And thanks for watching.